One of the more intriguing stocks in 2025 is Archer Aviation. The company came onto the scene with the vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that has captured a lot of people's attention, but really this year is when the rubber hits the road. The company is going to start producing as many as 10 aircraft and starting to build out contracts with government contractors and also vertiports in Abu Dhabi. That could be another business model that they lean into. So they recently reported earnings, and I want to go through the highlights, what we learned from the fourth quarter, and what sort of progress we need to expect in 2025. This is still a speculative investment. I want to be very clear about that, but it is a potentially asymmetric opportunity because if they can get these aircraft off the ground in some sort of volume and build out a business model that's ultimately really profitable, there's only a couple of players, and I think the market for air travel could potentially 10x in size from the way that commercial operations operate today if we're able to just take off from any sort of helipad or vertiport if they're built out all around the country. So I want to go through some of that today. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content, and thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. So let's look at the shareholder letter first. That's what I want to focus most on today. And the big thing is that they're moving forward with Abu Dhabi. This is really the big step forward. Joby Aviation is working in Dubai, Archer Aviation working in Abu Dhabi to be the first commercialization customer. And they're going to be deploying their Midnight commercially to dozens of early adopter markets in advance of type certification of the aircraft by the FAA. That should be happening later this year or early in 2026. They're also producing as many as 10 of these aircraft in 2025. They're going to be doing that in Covington, Georgia. And that's going to be supporting the testing that's going on for these aircraft for the FAA, and then also going to be building out expertise that's going to generate revenue and strengthen long-term demand. Where Archer Aviation has a little bit different business model than Joby is that they're really leaning into these defense opportunities. In December, they announced a partnership with Anduril, so that could be a really interesting if Anduril is able to basically move their operating system into the Department of Defense in a much bigger way, starting to win some contracts there. But the way that that would operate is they would basically be able to operate Archer Aviation aircraft, is the Archer Aviation aircraft would basically plug into that operating system. So that could be a valuable partnership, puts them kind of on the leading edge there for the next generation of defense contracts. So that could be a really nice move. They also have about $1 billion in liquidity, so plenty of money to get to kind of the next steps that they need to. And their spending is on target per their plans. So don't be surprised if they need to raise more capital in the next year or two. But again, if the opportunity gets bigger, if they keep hitting these milestones, don't think that the stock is necessarily going to decline in reaction to any of these sort of capital raises. The big theme for 2025 is going to be building out these facilities that are actually going to build these aircraft. So that's one of the things that they're building right now in Georgia. Expect more progress on this throughout the year. Like I mentioned, they're looking at producing 10 aircraft out of this facility. And once they get that up and running, that's where they're going to be able to scale their manufacturing. They just highlighted their Anduril partnership here. This is about a hybrid propulsion system, so going to give you a little bit longer range, which the military wants. Add in artificial intelligence, and that's the next gen dual-use aerospace platform that they're looking to build with Anduril. The financials, we're going to see a lot of red here. This is not a company that's going to be making money, but that's what we expect. Total operating expenses for the quarter, $124 million. Net loss was almost $200 million if you look at the full 12 months. Operating expenses still about that same run rate, $509.7 million with a net loss of $536.8 million. In equivalents, ended the year with $834.5 million in cash and equivalents. And then, like they say here, they closed another $301.8 million registered direct offering in early 2025. So that brings that cash balance up to about $1.1 billion. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. The other thing I just want to note, a small amount of notes payable, $64 million of notes payable, but no significant debt on the balance sheet. So that's going to be positive because, like I said, they're probably going to have to raise capital in the future. And those capital raises are really par for the course for a business like this. You can see here, cash on the balance sheet, $835 million at the end of 2024. Free cash flow was negative $451 million. So that will probably increase as they're starting to increase the production of their final aircraft. And they're probably, right now, they only have a little bit more than a year's worth of cash on the balance sheet. They're going to need to probably raise more capital. The orange line that you see here, there is the shares outstanding. That has increased steadily since 2020, including the company going public, but that will probably increase. So that dilution, something you need to bring into your investment thesis, at least just a little bit, because they're probably not done selling shares quite yet. Now, the question that we don't have an answer to at this point is, what do the economics for Archer Aviation look like in the future? Are they going to be selling aircraft? What sort of margins are those going to be? Some of the aircraft that they're going to be operating in Abu Dhabi, they're going to be actually owning those, and then they're going to be making money on basically a vertical takeoff and landing ride-sharing system. So there's multiple ways that they can make money. There's also advancements they can make in their hybrid propulsion system, bring a longer range that could be a more valuable aircraft, whether you're looking at selling that to commercial operators or to the military. So multiple ways that this business model could go. That's one of the things I like here, is that they've proven out that the technology works. Now you can iterate on what the business model looks like and move in the direction that's the most valuable for the company and for shareholders. But I think there's a lot of optionalities. There's a few competitors to keep an eye on. Joby Aviation is one that I mentioned earlier, but they aren't quite as focused on the military. So you do have that military side with Archer Aviation. I like that optionality because that can be a nice cash cow for the business. The one thing is, you don't want to be beholden to the military. You don't want that to be your main business, because then you can lose sight on some of those other things like commercial operations, which are actually going to be potentially a little bit more difficult, present a much bigger opportunity if you're able to get to a point where vertical takeoff and landing aircraft are replacing helicopters and replacing private jets in certain ways. So this is the opportunity and the risk for investors. Still a very speculative investment, one that I haven't added to the asymmetric portfolio yet. I don't own shares anywhere at this point, but one that I'm looking at closely in 2025, because I do think the opportunity could be asymmetric if the price is right. With the weakness in the market that we've seen over the past few weeks and early in 2025, could be some buying opportunities later this year. So keep an eye out here on asymmetric investing for my continued coverage on the eVTOL industry as it develops this year, one that I'll probably be covering a lot. And let me know your thoughts about Archer Aviation in the comments section below. Where do you expect this stock to end in 2025 if they actually get to commercial operations? Love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.